What's up YouTube, and welcome to another draw along with me. But today we're going to create this mountain in the clouds design. As always, there's a link in the description down below to everything you're going to need, so check out the requirements section of the description. And if you're new here, I post weekly Procreate tutorials here on my YouTube channel, so be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. But if you want even more tutorials from me, I post 3 more exclusive tutorials every single month over on Patreon to Patreon supporters. Again, there'll be a link to that in the description down below. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. As always, be sure to let me know in the comments down below if you enjoyed it. And with all that said, let's get started. So once you've created your canvas, you'll notice on mine that there's a very faint sort of grid. So if you go up to your actions and then turn on the drawing guide underneath the canvas tab, and if you edit that drawing guide, I've just added a very sort of opaque little grid there on the screen. So if you set your grid size to 258, you can change your opacity to whatever you want. I don't like it to show too much in the video, so I've got it down to about 10%. But if you set your grid size to the same as mine and then hit done, we've kind of got a guide now as to how to proportion our design to best fit the canvas size, because we're going to kind of work in sort of thirds a little bit. Top third is going to be the sky, middle third is the mountains, and the bottom third is some cloud work. So let's go ahead and go to our layers. We have an empty one to start with, so we're then going to go to our colors, and the top row in our palette is our sky set. So we're going to go ahead and grab the 4th color on that top row and drag and drop it onto the screen. That's going to be our background color. The next step is to draw in our mountains. So we're going to go to our colors and we're going to switch the color out to this one here in the very bottom left of our palette. And then we're going to go to our brush library. We're going to go to calligraphy and the monoline brush. Now I've set my monoline brush under stabilization to around about 29% there on the amount of streamline, and the stabilization is set to 17%. That will allow you to create some nice bumps and lumps, so sort of very small details within our mountain set. Now we are going to go ahead and create 2 separate mountains. So go into our layers, we need to create a new layer and then create another new layer. And on the top one out of those 2, we're going to add in our main feature mountain. Now pretty much I want it to end roughly here, and it needs to run all the way across down to roughly here and roughly over here to about this sort of point here. So we're kind of creating a mountain roughly that sort of shape, and then we can work from there. So let's go ahead and do exactly that. Let's work from roughly down here and just create our mountain. Now creating little nice bumps and lumps within your mountain will give you some really nice areas to play off of in terms of adding in highlights and shadows. And then once you've got a basic shape, you can then take a look at it and see what adjustments you want to make. So maybe I'm just going to just sort of flush this ledge out a little bit more here. But ultimately, once you're happy with it, if you've gone edge to edge, you can then drag and drop your color in to the spaces and take a look at the silhouette of your mountain. I'm really happy with how that looks, so you can kind of match yours up to mine if you wish. But what we're then going to do is go to our layers, and we're going to go down to the other empty layer we made and draw in our second mountain that's going to sit in the background. So we're going to zoom out just a tiny bit so I can get an idea for the edge of the canvas. And again, we're going to work roughly in this sort of spot here to roughly this sort of peak here, and then just let that run in behind our mountain. So this kind of shape here. So let's undo those circles and use that as a guide for creating our mountain. So just sometimes just working out where you need to go, which by the way, you need to run all the way to the edge of the canvas on the right hand side so that you can drag and drop the color into that space too. But working out where you need to go in a kind of grid system sometimes can be a lot easier and a lot more manageable. Now I'm happy with the positioning of both of those. I'm going to go ahead now and go to my actions. I'm going to turn off my drawing guide, so I don't need that grid on there anymore. So having our shapes now in place, we can now start to flush out the rest of the design. So we're going to go up to our colors. We're going to go ahead and grab this blue here. It is the 3rd color on that top row. We're going to go to our brush, and under airbrushing, we're going to use the soft brush, and the brush size can be set to around about 15%. If we go to our layers, we're going to go ahead and grab the background color, which is this purple layer here. And with this blue, we need to work at the top of the canvas and make our way down. So we're just going to come down a little bit, keep going until you sort of get towards the peaks of the mountains and blend that in nicely. What we're then going to do is go to our colors and grab the next color, which is the sort of pink tone on that top row. So the 2nd color on the top row. And again, go left to right And then when the blue starts to end, we want to go ahead and start to get really light with our pressure and just blend that in left and right. Make sure we go all the way to the edges. And then we're going to go to our colors and grab the top color, which is this sort of peachy orangey color. So top left of our palette, and we're going to blend that in to the pinks at the top. So creating a really nice sky color there. And then we can also go to our adjustments and go to gauge and blur. Swipe from left to right and just blend them into one another a little bit. So I'm going to go up to 14% and tap on my adjustments when I'm done. And then I'm going to grab my cursor on this occasion because I just want to go ahead and just bring this color down a little bit more. So I'm going to use the freeform option and just stretch that down just a little bit more. So it just goes beyond the canvas, bringing in a little bit more of that pink and the orange tone at the top. So I'm just adjusting mine now. It's just a personal preference till you end up with something like this. Next, let's go ahead and work on the front set down here. So we actually need to go to our layers and create another new layer right at the top. So we're going to tap on the top layer and create a new layer. We're going to go to our colors. We're going to go ahead and we're going to grab this color here. It is the fourth color on that top row. Again, still using the soft airbrush. We want to go ahead and go to roughly sort of that kind of height. So we're going to start off pretty firm down here and then just very lightly just start to blend out your pressure as you get up towards this point here. So we're creating a nice gradient there from left to right, nicely blending that up into our mountains. And now we can work on those mountains themselves. So let's go to our layers. Let's go to our main mountain, the big one here on the right hand side. We're going to tap on the layer and we're going to alpha lock it. And I'm going to turn off the mountain in the back for a minute so I can see this edge. Now that it's alpha locked, we can go to our colors. We're going to go ahead and work with this set of colors at the bottom row. So we're going to grab the second color on the bottom row. We're going to go to our brush library. And for you, it will be under imported. You're going to need to find the Leatherwood brush edited by Procreate. The opacity should always be set to 75%. And the brush size to start with is going to work out roughly around about 6 or 7%. And what we're going to do is we're going to create sort of the contour of our mountain. So we want to send some lines running down our mountain. Let the brush just sort of dabble in some color. We're just kind of creating rocky texture. And then on the right side, it would veer off this way. So we want to sort of run in some lines like this. So we're kind of trying to create direction using the brush and then just allowing it to just drop in. And don't be afraid to go slightly at different angles. You can see mine initially were quite straight and then I'm just running some across. Just trying to block in some color to get started. Definitely more so on the left hand side. I'm just going to block in a little bit more color. The right hand side over here is going to be our shadowed side of the mountain. We're then going to go ahead and go straight back to our colors and grab our base color. And we're going to do a process of sort of eradication, as I like to call it. So we're going to go down to the bottom left color. We're then going to make our brush size a little bit smaller, about 4 or 5%. And we're just going to run over the top of all of that color we just dropped in. Now what happens here is there's a process, and I'll just very quickly explain it. We dropped in that color here at 75%, the last color we used. And now we're adding another color on top, the original base color, which is also 75%. So you end up with lots of different random bits of tone, some at a very small percentage, some at a very strong percentage, and you're building up lots and lots of texture. You want your lines that you're now eradicating into this mountain side to follow the direction of the mountains. You can see I'm kind of letting my brush go like this in that diagonal fashion. And likewise over here too, I'm going to do exactly the same, maybe slightly more horizontal. And we're going to get rid of a good chunk of it on that right hand side because our light source is pretty much on the left. So that's looking okay for now. We'll just give it another quick coat. You can be very quick over the top of it. You can see I'm not spending too much time on it. This is kind of foundation colors, as I like to call them. And then we're going to go ahead and go to our colors again, and we're going to grab the third color on that bottom row. So this color here. And once you've got that, we're going to do exactly the same process. So we're going to go back to our brush size around about 6 to 7%. And we're going to start to add on some extra colors, following that same contour of the mountain. Start to work in some lines here and there, maybe some conjoining lines in areas that are going to give your mountain a bit more structure. And we're going to give the tiniest little bit over here on the right hand side. So just a few little sort of lines over to the right, but more so focusing your attention here. Now I'm actually going to block this off at the top almost, kind of like this. So we've got a very bright side facing our light source. So a little something like this will do the trick. And then we're going to go back to our colors. We're going to grab the base color again and do another layer of eradication. So this bottom left color, reduce the brush size down to say 3 to 4%. And again, we're going to run over the top of it. And what we're doing here is we've basically added highlights before, and now we're adding in shadows. So we're just breaking them up and essentially trying to create a very rugged, rough looking surface over here. So I'm going to darken up in behind this little peak here. And I'm going to do exactly the same up here as well. I'm going to start to just, in our shadowed side, really break that up a lot more. And I'm going to give everything a very consistent, good amount of coverage, because we've got snow to add on top. These are just, again, some nice foundations to show it's a rocky surface. So this is something that you want to end up with. Vary up your lines kind of more horizontal, not quite fully horizontal, still pointing down towards the bottom left, until you aim for something a bit more like this. We're then going to go to our colors. The next color is actually this purple tone before we move into the snow. So this is the final tone on this layer. So we're going to grab this color here, the fourth color on that bottom row. We're going to continue with our brush. We're going to make it back up to around about sort of 6 to 7%. And then more so on the light side, less so on the right side. We're going to go ahead and just add in some more of these colors here. And just blobbing them on, letting the brush randomly just drop the color on for us. And just adding that onto this left side a little bit more. We're building up lots and lots of tones with different colors. Let's then go back to our colors again and grab our base color in the bottom left of the palette. Reduce the brush size down again to around about 3 to 4%. And again, our final sort of hacking away session on this layer of just breaking up that purple a little bit more. Coming across, just breaking it up, giving it a good amount of coverage of the base color. Now you can, if you want to, also run in some sort of vertical lines to show maybe like ridge lines in the rock, some more verticality to it, less of a hill and very kind of steep lines by creating some little lines that run in vertically. These are all random little small techniques that you can add in just to give off a more realistic-ish looking impression of the mountain. We're still creating a nice sort of painting design, but we want it to look somewhat kind of realistic and resemble life itself a little bit more. So there we go, we've got some nice verticality in there. What we're then going to go ahead and do is go to our layers and create a new layer. Now I want to put the snow on a separate layer for a second. So this new layer, we're going to tap on it and we're going to clipping mask it. We're going to go to our colors and we're going to work with these three sets here. Now the snow, typically you don't really want to add in white straight away. You want to build up the colors again, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to grab this color here. It's a gray color. It's in the fifth column in the middle row. We're going to continue with exactly the same brush, 6% this time still. And we're going to start to work in some snow. So I'm going to come across where I want to add it in primarily. We can also add some on the right hand side, but just a tiny bit. You want to be extremely sparing over there. We don't want to add in too much light over there. And then again, we're just going to take a look at where we've got some color of that purple from the previous layer and just sort of block in some color near them or on top of them. So for example, I'm not going to add any in this area here because that's the back of that little peak. But out here, I'm just going to try and work out where I've dropped that purple in and just try to brush in some grey tones, which is going to act as our base tone for our snow. So a little bit of colour like so. Then what we're going to do is go to our base colour again. So go to your colours and bottom left of the palette. Make the brush size around about sort of 3%. And again, we're just going to very lightly just break that up a little bit, creating shadows within snow at the same time. So I'm basically very, very, very lightly just scattering this brush all over the top of it. Maybe even the odd like sort of vertical line in there again. So that's like our greys, our foundations of the shadows and snow. And then we're going to go to our colours and we're going to grab this colour here. It is the fifth colour on the bottom row. We're going to go to our brush size again. Let's make it 5% on this occasion, so a little bit smaller. And now we're going to start to block in some snow again. But this time we're getting a little bit brighter with the colour. We're also going to take a look at the coverage and see if we can maybe fill it out just a little bit more. So I'm going to be a bit braver here and blocking some in there. Maybe even just, again, the tiniest bit on the right, which we'll chop into in a second. So just the tiniest little few streaks over there. likewise just in behind this peak. So I'm following the direction of each peak. And then we're going to block in some snow on here too. Let's block in some more here, and then maybe the odd sort of stray line that's running down as you get a little bit further down, as it sort of breaks away as it gets further down the mountainside into the clouds. So I'm just creating some odd little scattering lines that just run off towards the bottom here, like so. And again, we're going to go back to our colours, back to our base colour here in the bottom left of the palette, and we're going to give that a nice scattering and break that up again. So just a couple of breakups on here, bearing in mind that we are painting on a separate layer. We are going to end up overlapping a lot of the base colours underneath, but they are foundation colours, so they were only meant to be there just exactly as that, a little bit of foundation, so that they are there. If you get a glimpse through the snow, you can see the rocks and whatnot that we made underneath. So let's just break up this little bit of snow here on the edge there, creating a side that's very much facing our light source over on the left. I'm going to break these up a little bit more, maybe coming across them with a bit more of a horizontal motion rather than vertical. So just breaking them up a little bit more like so. Let's then go back to our colours again, and we're going to start to move into this pink tone here. So it's the 6th colour on the bottom row. And again, we're going to go ahead and add in some of this on top. So we're going to make our brush size around about that 3 to 4% mark this time. And we're going to be a bit braver now, adding in this much brighter tone. And you want to focus this towards the top edge only, not so much towards the bottom. So just a little bit more colour towards the top where the sun's peeking round, maybe another little peak on the left hand side there. It's just slightly out of frame. So we're just scattering on some of this pink, scattering that on, bring it all the way down the left hand side. Don't be afraid to bulk some in as well. Just adding in some areas that are just catching the light a little bit better. And then we're going to go ahead and go to our colours. We're not going to go to the base colour this time. We're going to jump to this colour here on the middle of the first column. Going to make the brush size a little bit smaller, another 3%. And we're going to start to block in some much brighter highlight tones on here. Now, we want to actually then increase the brush size up to about 5% and just create some lines that are running vertically down a little bit. Then rotate your brush just so it's a little bit more horizontal, and start to add in some really nice bright sort of snowy points that are just catching again the light a little bit more than the rest. So just adding in this much more whiter tone. Again, you don't really want to ever use white itself, but now I'm starting to get a bit more brave with adding in the final layer of snow. I'm adding in a little bit more coverage here and there, just trying to block out that left side. So every peak, I always imagine you kind of have like a light side and a dark side. Yes, there would be snow here, but for now, in our design anyway, the light is only on the left and it's really dark here on the right. So that's kind of what I always imagine. And just going to start to add in a couple of streaks here that maybe run a little lower down. That's fine. And that looks good to me. I'm happy with how that looks. Always zoom out just to get an idea for the overall picture. And then we're going to hack away at this one, but we're not going to use the base color. We're going to go to our eraser. We're going to tap on the eraser and make sure we're still using the Leatherwood brush by myself. So you'll need to find it under imported. And using this brush, set to around about sort of 4 to 5%. We're going to break this up entirely now. Just give it a good coating, and we're going to introduce some shadows in these areas. Just breaking up the snow a little bit more. It's going to give you more definition. So I'm going in behind that peak there a little bit more. That looks like it's got a very good amount of contrast on there, and I kind of like that. I'll leave it as it is. So we're just using this brush to break into our snow and really focus it just on that left hand side. I'm going to really break up the right hand side if there's anything left on this layer. Just giving it a little bit more character, a little bit more contrast. And then likewise, we've now got more sort of a dynamic lighting look to it. Let's just take a look down here. I'm just going to break this up with the eraser yet again. Getting rid of some of this snow so it just sits right on the top edge there. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is go to our layers. We're going to create a new layer and drag it underneath that layer that we just created. We're then going to go to our colors and we're going to grab this color here, the 6th color on the bottom row. We're going to go to our brush library and we're going to go to airbrushing and the soft brush. We're going to set this brush to around about sort of 8 to 9%, if not slightly bigger in fact. Let's go up to about sort of 10. And we're just going to give the left hand edge a light coat of this colour. So the left hand edge here, just trying to block in a very light gloss of colour. This is going to fill in a little bit of the gaps with a bit more of a nice pinky look to it, which is going to sort of give off the lighting impression a little bit more. And now we have all the layers, we're going to do one more version of eradicating into it. So again, we're going to go to our eraser and now we've got this nice pink tone. We're going to chop into this too. So you may not see too much of a change, but I've set my brush to something around about sort of 8 to 9%. I'm going to just run some very hard pressure lines up through it, which is going to chop away into it, leave nice bright sides, but also some really dark areas through our design. We're going to do exactly the same again on the other layer. So we're going to go up to our snow layer. We're going to just run some very big, high pressure erasing lines through. We're going to then end up with some nice darker patches. And then we're going to go back down to our base layer. So this layer here. On this occasion, we can't erase, we need to paint. We're going to go to our brush. We're going to go to artistic again, or for you imported. Going to go to the leatherwood edited by myself. And we're going to change our color to the base color in the bottom left of the palette. Now we're going to go ahead and with our brush, we're going to set it again to that sort of 8 to 9%, nice and large. And with some very hard pressure, just run it up and down into this area. It's going to really get rid of quite a few bits, but it's going to just take away some of the more brighter areas and give us some really strong looking shadows. You can see every time I run it through, we're kind of developing the odd little area, like a little sort of area that's not facing the light in the slightest. And so maybe we can get away with a little bit at the top. And feel free to go back to your other layers then. So for example, maybe the snow layer with the eraser. Again, the eraser set to the leatherwood and just hack away into them again. So maybe even make the brush size about 7% and just hack away into them. Each time you do, you're creating more shadow kind of areas. So we're kind of just trying to give a bit more contrast. So there's a bit of snow there, but it's very light. So that is that done on that side. Now it's up to you. We did put in another mountain there in the background. You can, if you want to, instead, we could go ahead and just use that as a guide. So maybe just drop the opacity down. And the 3 layers above for the mountain above, just simply swipe them all from left to right, selecting all 3, group them, collapse that group down and swipe that mountain to the left and duplicate it. And then the bottom group out of the 2, if you grab your eraser, using say the freeform option and just move that off to the left, scale that down in size so it's getting a lot further back and kind of fit your silhouette. Now don't worry, we're going to change the shape of it in a second, just so it's a bit different from this one. I'm trying to save us some time, and we don't really need to mess around with drawing it twice, to be honest with you. And then tap on your cursor when you're done. So now go to your layers, the guide that you made before, just swipe it to the left and delete it. And the mounting group that's in the back there, turn it on and off just to be sure. Go to the base shape for it. We're going to go ahead and tap on the layer and turn off the alpha lock. We're going to go to our eraser. We're going to go to the option of calligraphy and the option of the monoline yet again. And we can set your brush size to any size you want, maybe about 11% for me there. And we're just going to just break into it, creating a different shape. So I'm just going to sort of hack away. You don't want to get rid of sort of the fundamentals of the kind of shape, you know, there's a main peak up here, but you can just hack away into it in a way, create some fun little chops into it, break it up, change it from the one that sits in front. So maybe I go for a more sharper point there rather than this one. And maybe we even just sort of create a little bit of a difference on the back. So just a little bit like so. Let that just run in there. So a little kind of easy method to create sort of duplicate mountains without having to do too much, because we are going to add some clouds in front of there anyway. So there we go, that's our mountain sets done. Let's go ahead and start adding in the cloud work. And we're going to use a really awesome brush for that that's built into Procreate. So we're going to go to our layers. We're going to go to the top layer. Let's collapse this group down to keep things nice and organized. So we've got this little bit of purple here at the bottom of our screen. We're going to go ahead and create a new layer above it. And we're going to go ahead and go to our colors. We're going to go ahead and grab the third color in the middle row. we're going to go to our brush library and we're going to go to elements and we're going to grab the clouds brush. Now the clouds brush is awesome for creating nice, easy, quick and easy clouds, and we've got the brush size set to 18%. So this purple we're going to add in now is the clouds that just sit at the very back, just in front of our mountain. So just vary up your sizes, create little sort of channels of clouds, so little sort of line works. So you don't want to make like a straight line across, it's too repetitive. But if you create something a little bit like that, a little bit up and down, the odd little sort of cloud that runs a little bit higher. And then we're going to go ahead and make our brush size a bit bigger, about 26%, and block in some clouds that just get really close to us down here, and then block in the whole of the bottom section. Then switch your color out and we're going to go ahead and grab this second color in the middle row. Let's keep our brush size nice and large, and it's set to 25%. We're going to add in some slightly lighter clouds a little bit closer to us. So just overlap in a little bit of those and block in the bottom color yet again. And then go to your colors and then grab the first column middle color. Let's make the brush size a little bit bigger, about sort of 30%, and just add in some really nice fluffy clouds right here in front of us. And again, just block that in towards the bottom. And we could even reduce the brush size down to say 18%. And on top of your purple, just brush in the odd little bit of white that's just going to then sit on top of that, and the purple will act as a really nice sort of shadow tone underneath. Now that looks nice to me. I'm just going to block out the left hand side a little bit so it's nice and solid with the cloud work, and the odd little one that runs a little bit straight upwards will look good. So I'm very lightly with my pressure, just pushing it ever so slightly higher. And the only adjustment I want to make to my clouds at the bottom there is I just want to grab my layers, and I'm just going to grab my cursor and I'm just going to move this down just a little bit. We want to still reveal a good amount of mountain, and we are going to add some clouds in here too. So we just want to move that down just a little bit to something a bit more like that. You can use the free form if you want to and just squish them down just a little bit, but something like that looks pretty good to me in terms of positioning. Again, that's just a personal sort of preference there. We're now going to go ahead and go to our layers and create another new layer. Then we're going to go to our colors and we're going to go ahead and grab the second color in the second row. We're going to set our brush size to roughly around about sort of the 12 to 13% mark. And I'm just going to just introduce a little bit of cloud that's just running up and across our mountain, just ever so slightly. Just so a really nice light coat of mountain, little clouds there. And then we're going to go to our colors and we're going to go ahead and grab the first color then in the second row. The brush size wants to be a little bit smaller, so we want to sort of set it to about sort of 9 to 10%. And then just on top of that cloud work, just introduce a nice light coating of this white. So we're just going to introduce a little bit more definition in that cloud. And as it runs off to the right, that's fine. We can just let it be nice and fluffy and just add it in a little bit of extra, a little bit of color there on the left, just to sort of show that it runs way off of our canvas. So just an extra little bit of cloud there, just sort of brushing its way through. And then the next step to do is go ahead and go down to your layers, and in between the two groups for our mountains, we're going to tap on the bottom group and create a new layer. We're going to go to our brush library and we're going to go to airbrushing and the soft brush. We're going to set the brush color to the third color in that middle row. And the brush size is set to about 14-15%, and we're just going to go from left to right until we start to see a little bit of a haze just come up in behind and in front of that mountain there. So in behind this mountain, but in front of that one there, just a nice light coat, and that will just add in another little bit where the clouds are maybe just rolling round into that space in behind, so kind of just diverting their way through the mountains, which looks really cool. We're then going to go ahead and go to our layers yet again. We're going to go down to our background gradient for the sky and create another new layer. We're going to go to our colors. We're going to go ahead and grab the second color in the middle row. We're going to go to our brush again, and we're going to go to elements yet again for the clouds brush. And we're going to set this one to, let's go to about sort of 14-15%, and just in behind this mountain here, we're just going to introduce again some more fluffy clouds. Just the odd one that strays a little bit higher will look great. Let's block in this side too, just adding in a little bit of color with this one first before we now again move to our colors. We grab the first color in that middle row, and then we just overlap on top of that, just adding in some really beautiful fluffy clouds. And Adding in the layers of the clouds going backwards really helps your whole scene come to life with its height and elevation. We're really taking you up and out into the clouds, and it fills out the whole scene so much more. So I'm just adding in some color back there. The odd little stray again that runs a little bit higher is fine. That will just add a nice wispiness look to it. And then finally, the only adjustments I want to make is just a quick correction down here. So I'm going to go to my layers. I'm going to grab this gradient here that sits at the bottom. I'm going to grab my cursor, and using the freeform, I'm going to drag that up. I just want to introduce a little bit more of that blue into the base here of the mountain. So a little bit of extra color there. Tap on my cursor when I'm done. And I'm going to go back to my layers where I've got this layer of cloud. I'm going to go to that layer. I'm going to continue with my cloud brush exactly how it was and just add in the odd tiny little bit of very light definition in here. So it's just adding in some clouds that are really, really light. I just want to sort of block this in a little bit better down here. So we've got some really faint clouds just at the back there. Some super, super faint ones. And I may even go ahead and grab my cursor, maybe rotate the clouds ever so slightly so they're sort of pointing down towards the bottom right. Zoom out, scale that up so it's big enough that it fits the screen a little bit better. So kind of just showing that there's a bit of a wind pushing them down towards the bottom right. Again, I like to keep all my final adjustments in the design so you can see what it would be that I would adjust at the end of every design. So you can get an idea to what to look for maybe in your own work. And if we go ahead and pinch with 2 fingers, we go full screen with 4, we end up with today's finished design. So I hope you enjoyed this mountain in the clouds design. As always, be sure to share your designs with me over on Instagram. I look forward to seeing what you get up to. And if you didn't already know, I post weekly tutorials here on YouTube, so please be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And I also post 3 more exclusive tutorials every single month over on my Patreon. If you want to get your name featured in videos, as well as sneak peeks of upcoming designs, early access to tutorials, and much, much more, hit the link in the description down below and come and show your support. And today's equipment list, as always, is the wonderful Sketchboard Pro that you can always use code JOELCREATE to get yourself a nice 10% off of. I'm currently using the Paperlike screen cover as well as the Doudrot glove. Everything will be linked in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.